Now, everybody, you should be excited to meet Scott. Scott's very presence strikes guts in the terror of the mediocre. He's a voice of opportunity. He's a force for good, for music, technology, and culture. Scott Cohen is the Chief Innovation Officer at Recorded Music at Warner Music Group. He's working closely with the senior management to help them chart the long-term course of the company. Scott has been in technology and music for many, many years, and in '97 he founded the first digital distribution company for music, The Orchards. This was to give independent artists the ability to sell their music to a mainstream audience. And now, 2 decades after it was sold to Sony, it remains the largest distributor of music in the world. Besides this, Scott has a promising lecturing and public speaking career where he is evangelizing new technologies such as artificial intelligence, blockchain, virtual and artificial reality. Also, what makes Scott very special is that in 2016, he became a cyborg after he developed the North Sense. Now, though you are a cyborg, Scott, you are one of the most genuine and warm human beings that I have met for a very long time. And we're super excited to have you here to start to unpack and unfold this conversation with us about what's next. So welcome to you live from Italy.
Yeah, sorry I couldn't be there in person, but I'm on top of a mountain in snowy Italy. Actually, when I finish this call, I have to walk like 2 kilometers back up the mountain to where I'm staying because this was the only place I could find with internet connection. But I'm here on my, ski holiday. So,
Thank you for making the effort for us. Now, Scott, you have one of the closest accounts with technology and how it's changed the music industry through time. And I'm really hoping that you'll share and enlighten all of us with what you have experienced so far. What happened?
well, it's not just what happened with me. I mean, it's interesting because this is the 25th anniversary of The Orchard, which Richard Gotterer and I started in 1997, which is quite insane because when we did it, there was nothing like it is today. I mean, we forget what the past looked like. You know, when we talked about setting up a digital distribution company for music, you have to remember that people were on dial-up modems. Those that actually had a computer were on dial-up modems because most people didn't. Telephones were those things that were plugged into a wall and you answered if you happened to be home, because if you weren't, there was no way to reach you. It was a very different world back then. And we take for granted, you know, the world we have today. But back then, if you were an independent artist and you wanted to release, wasn't really a way to reach the world. And so we kind of opened up the floodgates to digital distribution. The problem was that although it was a great idea looking back to be, a digital distributor of music, there were lots of problems like there was nowhere to distribute the music to because online stores didn't exist yet. iTunes didn't even happen until March of 2003. I mean, even an illegal service like Napster at the time and didn't start until I think June of 1999. So big problem starting a digital distribution company with nowhere to distribute to. And also we didn't have any content to distribute. And I don't know, we were just a little too early. But what we were trying to accomplish back then, Richard and I, was to recognize that there's always these changes in music. I mean, now looking back this year over the last, I don't know how many decades you want to go back. If I look at, the 50s, how technology changed, which then impacted the music business. So in the music business in the 50s, you know, it was all about black and white television and AM radio and singles. So think, Elvis Presley on black and white TV on the Ed Sullivan Show, and a 45. But then a decade later, the entire industry changed because of technology, because then it was about color television and FM radio and the album format. And then you think, okay, it's now the music business. Yeah, but then it changed again in the 70s, because the 70s was all about portability. So the cassette tape comes out, and the Walkman, we forget, we think about iPods, but there was a Walkman. And then in the 80s, it changed all over again, because then the CD comes out. Nobody's listening to albums and cassettes, it's the CD. And MTV becomes the primary way people discover music. And then you move to the 90s and the internet launches, and that changed everything. And then the early 2000s, and you get the iTunes Music Store, and nobody's buying CDs anymore. Now it's all about downloads. And then you move again into the next decade. It's about social media and Facebook, and YouTube is there. And all of a sudden, nobody's downloading music. It's all about streaming music. And then you move into this decade. It's TikTok, and we're talking about a whole bunch of other things like blockchain and NFTs, and we can discuss that later. But my point is, the music business is constantly changing. The reason it's changing is because of technology. And so what we need to do is kind of stay on top of that where we're going.
Yes.
Sorry, that was a long answer for a very short question. Sorry.
But such a good foundation to continue the conversation, because from where we are today, obviously here at VEGA, we try to look into the coming year and the coming years of what's next. And I'm curious, from your position, what do you see as some of the next big things in the prolongation of the story that you just told us?
Yeah, so you do see this shift, and it started to happen. So, you know, TikTok is massive right now. I don't know where it's going to be in 5 years or 10 years, but right now, it's what I would say a place where culture is being created. Interesting things are happening on TikTok, and then it's getting reflected in other places like Spotify. It's a place that people discover an artist, and we see that something's happening because then we see the streams over on Spotify. We see it reflected in those other spaces. So that's kind of where we are now. But at the same time, I'm seeing, if that's kind of social, I'm seeing, a lot happening for example. So there's always been a connection between music and fitness. People, I don't know, they went jogging with, listening to music, or they went to a gym and they heard music playing. But that's not what's happening today. This is, music and fitness on steroids. It's the notion of pellet, and how people are consuming music while they're training, and it's all happening virtually. You could even say that the trainers in Peloton, in some way, are the new influencers. Like, what music they pick for their class is going to reach millions of people. So this is a whole new way to look at what music and fitness does, in terms of how maybe we can break an artist through a fitness application, or certainly how artists can generate revenue through that. So that's one place where I see it moving forward. We're really at the front end of this kind of trend. I would also say gaming is pretty big. Again, it's not like there hasn't been music and games in the past, but this again is at a whole nother level. You see, artists performing in Fortnite and reaching massive groups of people. But then I think you take it another step forward, and you look at platforms like Roblox. And I hope everyone knows what Roblox is. Roblox. So it's a gaming platform where kids create games and play games. And it is a massive opportunity when you have nearly a couple 100 million kids every month on a platform, and they are kids between the ages of 8 and 18. And this is where they're spending their time. The opportunities are a lot greater than can we license some music into it? It's how do we become part of this ecosystem? So I think gaming is going to be huge. VR hasn't quite taken off, but now we're starting to see the finally some movement in terms of the adoption of the headsets and what's possible in there. And I could just keep going on and on. It's interesting. I hope none of this is exactly new to everyone, but what we're seeing is the timing seems to be about right. That it's not too late, but it's not too early that we have to wait years and years. It's starting to happen now.
And the adoption of the technologies, right, are accelerating everything, and especially throughout the past 1.5 years, people onboarding into these platforms and games and digital universes like never before.
Yeah.
Of all of this that you've mentioned and elaborated about now, Scott, what are you personally excited about, and what are you looking forward to in this coming year?
Well, it's interesting. What excites me is less specific about either a certain company or a certain technology. What excites me is when technology seems to take over and become so natural that people stop noticing it. And to me, that's kind of interesting. I think, if I think of something like, we talk about the future of technology, and we think of something like Google Maps, right? There's always been maps, and then there's Google Maps, and so you put your destination in where you want to go, and it kind of tells you where you should go, and take a left here and a right there, and you follow along, and even as you're following a Google map, pointing out different landmarks, different businesses or buildings, and then when you use it, you have to remember that that's augmented reality. That is putting digital information and overlaying it in a physical world. But I've never seen anyone use Goops, and when they arrive at their destination, they're like, oh my God, that was fucking mind blowing. I just came out of this AR experience. It was incredible. It's become so natural, we don't even realize that every day we're going through augmented reality experiences, so natural. And so to me, that's the exciting part, that we're on social media and we're online and we're living these virtual lives that used to be separate from our real world life. Like we had our physical life and then we had our virtual life, but they're indistinguishable now. What somebody posts on social media like Instagram is real. It's really them. Again, even if they're being fake and phony, they're probably being fake and phony when you meet them, in person. This is how people express themselves. Say that's the virtual version of you, but when I see you in person, what you tell me is the real version. There's just no distinction. The virtual world and the physical world, it's one and the same. And so what really excites me is where are we going with the next phase with, R and the metaverse and blockchain and NFTs and all of this stuff that seems so far out there. And then there's going to be a day when we look back and go, oh yeah, I didn't even really notice. Like, do you notice the day that, you got your first smartphone? Or do you remember? I'll give you an example going back to like Google Maps. I'm from New York, but I moved to London many years ago. And when I got to London, it was so complicated that you had to get what they call an A to Z, which is a little map. And you could get a pocket A to Z of London because there was no way to get London. And so everywhere I went, I had my little map. And I can't remember the day that I left the house without it because I was confident enough that I had a mobile phone that could get me anywhere I went. It just one day magically happened. Like, I don't remember the first time I posted something on social media. All of it just seems so natural. And that is the exciting place that I like to get to.
I had a conversation the other day with the COO, former COO of Autodesk, that was speaking about new technologies, and he said we should call them AHA, and it stands for Augmented Human Abilities, which is kind of what I understanding that you're also speaking to. And I'm super curious if you can elaborate, because I've gotten to know you a little bit, and through these conversations, you've stated that I don't want to be using technology, I want to be technology. And so, speaking to this intimate relationship you have with technology, will you elaborate for us what was your decision in 2016? Becoming a cyborg and starting to build your new senses in a different way than many of us have done yet, at least.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny because we use technology. We use, you know, computers and mobile phones, but but everything else in our lives is technology. There's I might be in the mountains, but there's nothing around me that's natural. I'm sitting on a chair, which is a piece of technology, something that we made, and I'm have my laptop on a desk that somebody made, and there's walls. I'm in a building and it's artificially heated. And by the way, my clothing technology, humans made this technology because we can't even maintain our own core body temperature. And as a matter of fact, as humans, we can't even survive on this planet without technology. There is no environment that I could throw a human in, stripped down naked, with no tools, where they would survive. They wouldn't be able to collect enough food to sustain themselves. They couldn't, if they, I'm a vegan, but if I was, stripped down naked on a desert island, I might hunt down an animal, maybe. But I couldn't, with my bare hands, grab something. We couldn't do it without tools, without fire, without technology. So already as humans, we should be comfortable with the fact that we require technology for our survival. And my point is, we've now gone over the over this kind of curve where it's no longer about survival. It's about other things. We use the technology to make our lives better, to enrich ourselves. It's not just, can I wake up another day and I've survived? Whew, thank God. It's no, we don't think about technology that way. It's to enrich our lives for those of us that are fortunate enough. So I was kind of looking around the world and thinking, God, we spend so much time and effort and money to make our phones smarter and our homes smarter. Everything around us, smart this, smart that. Why aren't we spending the same amount of time, money, and energy on us as humans? Why are we just keeping this technology kind of arm's length? And I thought maybe I should incorporate it into myself. And again, it's not that cyborgism hasn't been happening. It's been happening for medical reasons. People have cochlear implants or pacemakers. If you have a piece of technology in your body to keep your heart running. I was thinking, but why should we only use it for medicine? And then I was thinking, people were doing a lot around cosmetic surgery. I thought, surely there's another use case, so to speak, to make us better. So I thought about it, and in 2016, I inserted two titanium rods in my chest and attached a circuit board with a couple hundred components and created what I call the North Sense, which gave me the sense of the magnetic field of the planet, which is a sense that maybe some other species have, like migratory birds, and I think sharks have this, and a number of species are aware of the magnetic field of the planet. And I thought, why shouldn't I? Why shouldn't I enhance myself as a human to become more human?
And what was that like? And was there an integration period or an adjustment of these new senses?
Well, I would say it was almost immediate. No, not almost immediate. It was immediate. It was quite profound. And to be clear, I did this with a dear friend of mine, Liviu Babitz, and we started a company called the North Sense to develop these two senses for us, the North Sense, and we did it together at the same time. The moment I attached it to my chest, and I started feeling this new sense, it was, I don't know, it was life changing. It was incredible. Um, it changed my perception in ways that I hadn't anticipated. I thought it would be more about being out in the world and being aware. But it was almost the exact opposite. It was about spaces and inside spaces and closed spaces and having an awareness of what's happening in a room. Maybe kind of my own internal feng shui, of how things are positioned in places and how I'm standing. And I would find myself turning in certain ways because it felt right to be along the north south axis. And I don't know, it was incredible.
Oh, okay, we could unpack this for a very long time, but I want to make sure that the audiences also gets a chance to learn what you think about these immediate shifts in other arenas. So if we can just look back to your day job, your professional job as head of innovation at this Warner Group of recorded music. Can you speak to us about what are some of these immediate and big shifts for music as a business? What do you see that we should be expecting in the year and years to come?
Sure. I mean, first of all, and this has never changed for the music business. It's go where the audience is. Wherever they are is where you should focus your efforts. And so where are they? Certainly they're online, but where? They're on TikTok, they're on Roblox. I mean, that is our target audience. So that's number one. That's where you should be focusing. Number two is, if that's where you should be focusing, what are you doing about it? Um, could you be in the music business 20 years ago if you had never seen a CD, never heard it, never played music in your car, but read about that possibility, never downloaded a song, never, like, how can you be in the music business today and not be spending time on TikTok, time on social media, time on gaming platforms, time on all the places where it's happening? So this is a massive opportunity here, because those that don't will lose relevance in the business because they just won't know what they're talking about. You can't read it. You have to do it. You have to live it. You can't pretend. You can't read about a concert. You've either been to concerts or you haven't. If you want to be in the live music industry and you go, oh, I've never gone to a gig, but I saw something on TV that showed what a gig looks like. What the fuck? If you've never been to a gig, how could you be maybe a booking agent or a concert promoter? So if you want to be in the music business and you're not in these spaces, what you're thinking, because you would have a tough time being in the business because you can't relate to the audience and you can't relate to the artist. Second, that was all number one. Number two is, you know, something that's also never changed. So one is go where the audience is. Number two, where it's never changed, is it's all about the artist. It's all about the artist. Like, if you don't have an artist first approach to everything you do to make it what's best for the artist, then again, hang it up. You're in the wrong business. Are you supporting their originality? Are you helping to build them up? I think a lot of ways, working with the artists is often even doing the unsexy things. We think about the value we can provide to an artist, but sometimes it's the kind of, I don't want to say boring parts, but it's like, now we have all the data privacy and data protection laws like the GDPR in Europe. So how are we using that to help our artists so that they don't have to worry about that? If they have a mailing list or an online store, they would have to be concerned about Who are you selling to? It's a 12-year-old girl. What country is she in? How did you get her name on your mailing list? How did you approach her? What is the product you're selling her? Like, if you're not aware of all that stuff, you're going to get yourself in trouble. So, that's another part of how we support artists, is by dealing with the kind of unsexy parts. Um, and then the third part is kind of where we're going with blockchain and NFTs. Remember, NFTs is a element of the blockchain, and the blockchain is about protocols. So there were internet protocols, TCP, IP, transmission control protocol, internet protocol, moved to the web, HTTP, hypertext transfer protocol. And so it's the internet, a set of protocols, the web, a set of protocols. Now, on top of that is blockchain, a set of protocols. And that's I'm trying to break it down in 2 minutes as simple as I can. Um, and so, that's where we are now with NFTs. Maybe it's better NFTs, like we're teasing it out there. TEASE. It is. We're teasing this. The NFTs. It's very early. It's not where we're going to be 5 and 10 years from now, but it's where you should be spending time now. If anyone listening hasn't set up a crypto wallet, hasn't bought an NFT, hasn't transferred one, gifted one, then you better hurry up and do it. And you better understand what this process is. It is a new world, but luckily it's such early days. If we compared it to the World Wide Web, if Napster was 1999, 1995. So this is where we are with NFTs. But if you want to succeed in the next decade, you better understand the blockchain and NFTs and how they operate, and start to actually do it instead of reading about it.
So, for you, obviously, it's very natural to be so curious that you go ahead and do it. So, on a very practical level, what can we encourage and what can we invite the audience to try or do very basically tomorrow?
All right, tomorrow. Why would you wait? Today.
This afternoon, yeah.
It's up to you. And it takes no skill. So go on Roblox, Roblox. And what you should do is create a game. Go create a game. The beauty of creating a game on Roblox is, if you know how to code, awesome. You can create any kind of game you want. If you don't, doesn't matter. If you know how to drag and drop, you can make a game on Roblox, invite some of your friends to go play your game and see what it's like. Go into a bigger game on Roblox and start interacting. See what it's like in there. Spend some time. And by the way, I don't mean spend 5 minutes. Put some hours in. Know what it's like. Know what the environment of Roblox is like. So build a game, play a game, share it with friends, interact, and see what it's like. And
Today.
I'll say, don't wait. And I'll say, just to wrap it up, why it's so important is, if you're thinking about it as only gaming, then you've already understood the opportunity here. The way I look at it is, if I saw kids on a playground playing games like going on the swings or going down a slide, if I just said that's all they're doing, then I would misunderstand the opportunity. Because what happens is, while kids play games, they talk. They talk about their favorite music, their favorite TV shows, their friends, the teachers, whatever. That's what they do. And that's what they do online in Roblox. They don't just play games, they chat. They chat about their favorite music, their favorite TV shows, the friends they like, who they don't like. This is the opportunity to be part of that world.
Amazing. Now, a final question. What's next for you individually on a personal level, and what's next for Warner? What do you see that you'll be honing more in on during this year?
So I'm going to answer the second one first and quickly. Warner Music Group is a public company, so there's no way I can reveal what we're working on at Warner. But what I can reveal is what I'm working on personally as a cyborg. Is I've been spending quite a lot of effort to create my North Sense 2, which is going to be much smaller capsule that's implanted in the chest. The first two prototypes I did completely failed, which is not completely failed. They failed, but not completely. So I'm still working on the new prototype for the North Sense 2. And who knows? You know, if you spoke to me last year, I would have said, oh, it'll be ready in 6 months. Now I'm just like, I have no clue when I'm going to finish this. But how about this? I'll make a promise. When I finish, I'll let you know, and we'll talk about it then.
Yes, please. Okay, Scott, thank you so much for carving out time, precious time, while you are in northern Italy from your skiing holiday to share what's on your mind with all of us. I want to make sure that the audience has the opportunity to tag along on your adventure. So where can we follow you?
The normal places. I'm on Instagram, LinkedIn, you know, Roblox. You can find me there. Let's see. If you Google Scott Cohen, Warner Music Group, or Scott Cohen Orchard, you'll find my LinkedIn. My emails everything is public. You don't have to. You can find my mobile email. I'm very transparent.
You're easy to stalk. That's an invitation too.
Exactly.
Scott, thank you so much for the opportunity to unpack some of your thinking, and we're super excited to be following you more closely and throughout the year with everything on your plate.